What's up, everybody? This is Jose from Southern Life. On today's video, we're going to take on Fort Lauderdale because I went on the internet, looked at some videos from Fort Lauderdale. I was like, wait, hold on a minute. They're all realtors and all their videos suck. So let me finally do something good for this people of Fort Lauderdale and make a video that actually reflects what this city is about, since everything on the internet about Fort Lauderdale sucks. It is a great city and it's got a lot of great stuff. But when I watch a realtor make a top 10 list, 5 pros and 5 cons, and the biggest con is the realtor themselves and their wacky, horrible YouTube channel, then I get offended. So I'm going to make a video to show you guys what it's actually like to be in Fort Lauderdale, a city that has a lot to offer with a lot of diversity, incredible variety of restaurants. There's so much good stuff about Fort Lauderdale, but the city really needs a good YouTube video that explains what the city's about, that's not created by some random YouTubing realtor. It just seems like the vast majority of the videos that are out there don't really say what it's actually like to live in Fort Lauderdale, since the videos are created by realtors and their ultimate goal is not to tell you what Fort Lauderdale is really like, but to sell you a house there. I live in Florida, but I'm one county over, and as you guys know, people in Florida are very territorial about what particular part of Florida they're from, so I'm not going to be ashamed to tell you what really sucks about Fort Lauderdale. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to give it to you how it is. Welcome to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. On today's video, we're going to talk about, is Fort Lauderdale right for you? We're going to look at some pros and cons. But first, we have to call our broker and make sure he approves our video. Hey, Katie, go ahead and call your broker and get permission so we can say the truth about living in Fort Lauderdale, since every YouTuber is a realtor.
Hey, broker. Can I get permission to publish a video on the truth about living in Fort Lauderdale? No, what do you mean no? You can't talk about the homeless people selling crack. What about that Ponzi scheme you're running with your clients?
Right. So apparently, since we're not realtors, we're going to tell you the truth about living in Fort Lauderdale, the real pros and the real cons. The vast majority of people who would make a video like this are realtors, so they're going to sugarcoat it, but we're going to give you guys the truth since there's no broker deciding what we can and can't publish. Go out there and do it. So first, Katie, you're studying to be a realtor. Are we going to be able to trust you after you get that license?
I hope so. I mean, I have to wear fancy clothes or
lose 400 pounds or something like that. Like you can't just like show up to...
I'm just going to be me and they got to accept that. Or I won't have a broker.
You can't have a broker if you're going to be a realtor.
I'm not going to change the way I dress for you.
So one of the worst things about Fort Lauderdale is that it's completely dependent on tourism. So if you're planning on starting a business, or even if you work for somebody else, there's a time of the year where you cannot find a parking spot here. And then there's another time of the year, well, everything's just going to be empty. And this dependency on tourism makes it a great place to travel, but it also makes it a horrendous place to try to make a full-time living. So it's either feast or famine out here. And honestly, that's the situation in a lot of places in Florida. But here in Fort Lauderdale, it is definitely the situation. Another con of living in Fort Lauderdale is that everybody that moves here from New York, and there's a lot of people here from New York, they all try to start the same type of businesses. And it seems like there's a saturation of the same type of businesses. And that means that it's a pretty crappy place to start a business. It is definitely micromanaged here. The combination of our first con and this one means that managing a business here is pretty complicated. And the fact that everybody that moves here kind of tries to do the same exact thing as the next person means that most types of businesses are going to have a lot of competition. And while we're here in this parking lot, let's talk about the last thing I don't like about Fort Lauderdale, at least for the beginning of this video. This parking lot here illustrates a lot of the things that are wrong with Fort Lauderdale. One of the main things that I hate about Fort Lauderdale is that you have to pay to park. Pay to park is absolutely one of the things that aggravate me the most about anywhere I go in Florida or anywhere in general. And with just a transient type of crowd, it's almost understandable that you have to pay to park. Think about how many people would just park a vehicle here and try to live in it if it wasn't the case. I understand the complications of city life, but pay to park has never been one of my favorite things. And it seems like in Fort Lauderdale, you're not only paying to park, you're almost paying to breathe. That's poison ivy. Or it's a poison oak. Either way, you don't want to touch it. Another con of living in Fort Lauderdale is also plainly illustrated in this parking lot. Seems like we haven't even had to leave the parking lot to just pretty much illustrate what the crap is wrong with Fort Lauderdale. Apparently, this is what's left of this bicycle. All right, I'm gonna sound like a realtor for a minute, and it needs to be said like this. The beaches and the beach vibes in Fort Lauderdale are some of the best you're gonna encounter in the entire state of Florida. The massive amount of coconut palm trees, big buildings, like a little malecón, which is like a boardwalk that comes right along the beach. You can drive right along the beach, really, Fort Lauderdale Beach, the big giant freighters out there. The fact that you can park directly on the beach, the water is always beautiful, emerald colors. It's not as good as Panama City Beach, but the coconut palm trees and the vibes really make it one of the best vibes and beaches you're gonna find in the entire state of Florida. That by itself makes Fort Lauderdale one of the best travel destinations. But we're talking about actually moving to Fort Lauderdale, and that's a little bit different because living here does give you the options to enjoy some awesome beaches. Now, by the way, I got family that lives in Fort Lauderdale, and they absolutely love it. And they've lived on the southwest side of Florida, and they have enjoyed living in Fort Lauderdale as much, if not more, as living in southwest Florida because of the beaches here, which is really the area's greatest pro. Everybody wants to live along the beach, so living here doesn't come with an incentive, it comes with a price tag. Perhaps you live in a part of the country where there's incentives to live there. There's no incentive to live here, there's a price tag. And that price tag isn't just your housing, it's your boss at work that knows you want to live there. It's every little thing you have to do takes into consideration that you want to live by the beach and you're going to pay for that. There's no industry waiting for you here. There's no oil like in Texas. There's no farming like Illinois. There's absolutely nothing waiting for you here. They don't need you. There's more people here than there need to be. It's actually a competition for everything from housing to work, your job, everything is up for grabs. So if you want a handout, you want life to be easy, then this is not a place for you. Pulling a permit is difficult. Buying a house is difficult, and finding a job that pays well is even more difficult. This is an area that has a lot of talented people from many nationalities. Many of these people are well studied, they're very equipped to be very successful at work, and not only do they have the book smart, but they also have street smart, and they also have the ability to work long hours, and they're not expecting as much pay as you will. So if you're looking for an easy ticket to a job, then Fort Lauderdale is not the place that's going to give that to you. But on the flip side of that, if you're retired and you can afford it, all the services, shopping, dining, and experiences that you could want are at your fingertip. And hospitality here, especially the customer service side of it, is very high quality. Everybody knows that they have to be on point. So if you're on the service side of things, you will get everything you need in a prompt fashion. The price tag to live here is tremendous, and a lot of people are paying an arm and a leg, if not their whole entire soul, to be able to make their Fort Lauderdale dreams be true. And it is true that a lot of people are getting very tired of the fast pace of life, and they're moving somewhere a little bit slower speed as they get older. Those people that are leaving are in for a big surprise that all the city comforts that they're used to in Fort Lauderdale are not going to be readily available the way they expect in the places they're going to. Those places are cheaper for a reason, and vice versa. Fort Lauderdale is expensive for a reason, being a big city and one with a lot of good labor force available, a diverse labor force at that. There's every niche in society has been filled so that all the services and all the things that you want are accessible and at your fingertip. And it is a very great city if you have money and the ability to enjoy that money. Thus, free time to do all the things that need to be done in a place like this. We came not during the peak season for this video and not during the absolute dead season. It was kind of like in the middle, and it took us exactly 1 hour to drive from the beach all the way across to the Everglades. So it takes 1 hour to drive clear across the urban core of Broward County if you are heading east to west. If your commute takes you north to south, your life will be an absolute nightmare, especially if you're stuck on Interstate 95. Now, when I worked in Miami, I had a co-worker that lived in Broward County. His commute was 2.5 hours every single day each way, bringing it to a total of almost 5 hours when traffic was worse during the winter. My personal opinion, and this is nothing more than my personal opinion, the Broward County area has nowhere to grow because it's already all filled in. And again, we got the Everglades on the western boundaries of the metropolitan area, which means the only way Broward County can grow is up. And I've seen areas that once were beautiful suburbs, and today, even though they're still gated communities and structurally they look like suburbs, they're really actually inner city neighborhoods, as people have just had to keep moving into further and further out parts and the communities get older. So Fort Lauderdale, it's still the same old city it used to be. There's just a lot more people crammed into it now. So it's not laid out exactly the way most cities in the United States are laid out. It's in a place where geographically it has nowhere to grow. Palm Beach to the north, Miami to the south, and the Everglades to the west, and the ocean to the east. Pretty much, there's nowhere else to grow. And most Americans today are wanting to live in suburban places when they have a little bit of money. That's why in Broward County, you have what's known as contrast neighborhoods, where the rich people and the poor are living on the same block. So if you're used to being isolated from the urban cores like you are in other American cities, you're going to find that in Broward County, even though you have money and affluence, poverty and crime are going to be right in your face, despite the fact you're living in a place you're paying quite a lot of money to live at. So the fundamentals of an American city that you're used to everywhere else, it's a little bit different. Fort Lauderdale has nothing to do with these other places. It's more of an urban area surrounded by other urban areas, and the things you're used to, like people living in a home for a long time and families being there, it's very different than that. While culturally you get a lot in this area, like I said, incredible beach vibes, there's always something to do, there's always an event. When it comes to crime, on the other hand, it is a very unique and complex city. Crime in Fort Lauderdale is kind of more sophisticated and more advanced than in many other places. While I've never been concerned for my safety in the Fort Lauderdale area, and I've been here at night and in really sketchy areas, it seems like a place where there's so much diversity that even if you stand out in some way or another as a tourist or whatever, you're not looked at as a victim. It's a place where you can really be yourself and not have to worry too much about crime. The vast majority of criminals are doing some type of complex, complicated scheme, either in the insurance fraud world or in retail theft or some other type of more elaborate criminal activity. In other words, violent crime isn't really a worry. It's more of identity theft, making sure that nobody's trying to set you up for an insurance fraud and things like that that really have to take a lot of attention while you're in Fort Lauderdale. So it's more of a sophisticated type of criminal. So if you're coming from a place like New York City or Washington, D.C., you'll be ready for it. But if you're coming from a place like a small town, then there's going to be a lot of things you could fall for here. And you'll have to be very careful. Maybe get with a local and just kind of know what type of thing you can and can't do so you don't make yourself a really easy target. Scamming and finesse is the order of the day. So if you're moving to Fort Lauderdale, you need to understand it's a tourist-based city. There's not a lot of incredible paying jobs here. The cost of living is tremendously high. And the vast majority of the people that are living here are kind of just trying to fake it till they make it or extremely pushed to the limit economically. So if you have a little bit of money and you're young and you want to live in a place that's more open-minded, more diverse, you should definitely consider Fort Lauderdale. However, if you have a family and you're looking for more of a fundamental type of lifestyle, then Fort Lauderdale is probably going to be a little bit more modern than you will feel comfortable with. If you're looking for that quiet retirement, Fort Lauderdale may not be the place for you. It is definitely an urban, fast-paced, high population density location, more apt for single people and young people than for families and kids. All right, so one of the best things that this metropolitan area has is shopping. So we're going to go shopping inside this store. This is one of many malls out here. But now that we've talked about some of the bad things, we'll focus on a few of the good things that this metropolitan area has. and one of them is shopping. As you can see, for some reason, okay. A few distractions here and there. I'm saying one of the best things this metropolitan area has going for it is shopping. There's a lot of malls in this metropolitan area. This is just one of them. So shopping is probably one of the best things this area has. Now, there are way more extravagant, expensive places to shop. We're just doing regular shopping, but the Broward County area kind of excels in a few categories. One of the areas where it really excels is shopping. There's a lot of selection, a lot of brands that you just won't get everywhere else. So if you like going shopping and spending money like these folks are here. Uh-oh, Papa got money. What? They're going big on that one. But if you like shopping, if you like getting out and spending that money, then for sure, Broward County will have you covered. Seems like there's a lot of shopping options. Good stuff to do when it comes to shopping. So I guess some of the upsides of this metropolitan area are gonna be shopping, diversity. Now, this isn't a place where you're gonna feel unwelcome or where somebody's gonna try to do any of that weird crap like that. This is just a more like everybody's okay here. I mean like everybody's okay here. It's a very welcoming place. There's a lot of diversity. So you're not gonna really have those types of problems in Broward County. In fact, I've been to a lot of places up and down the East Coast, and probably outside of New York City, it's about as diverse as it gets outside of New York City. There's a few places that are just really big on diversity, and for a fact, Broward County, places that stand out for being incredible on diversity: Broward County, Orlando, New York City, maybe Houston. But Broward is very diverse, so it does offer people that are coming from other places and just want to feel comfortable the ability to just kind of fade in no matter what type of strange background you come from or what kind of nationality that there aren't a lot of other here in the United States. Broward County is definitely a diverse and welcoming place where you can feel comfortable and go about your regular business without having to worry about that crap. Of course, you're not going to have those types of liberties. Living in smaller places, you might have kind of a little bit more of a challenge in other places with that. I had it living in Alabama, and I've seen people who've had it in a lot of different places. So if you need diversity, just so you can blend in a little bit better, then this is definitely a place where you're not going to have those worries. Like I said, there's a few cities that kind of excel at that. To some degree, Atlanta, and once you get a little bit outside of Atlanta, it goes downhill fairly quickly. So Atlanta even wouldn't, it is diverse, but it's just like, if you want a place where you can really just throw that in the closet and not have to worry about it, then I would say Broward County is probably most certainly the place. All right, so one of the other pros that naturally comes with diversity, especially on a large scale, like I have here in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area, is eating at restaurants. If you like eating at different places, there's no shortage of restaurants here. That's kind of one of the upsides of diversity. When you think about food, there's a few cities that automatically just stand out in the United States. One of them is New York City, New Orleans. But believe me, Fort Lauderdale definitely ranks among those cities that are just top. Just absolutely top quality when it comes to the food here. Not due to any particular food scene, but just due to the wide diversity of foods. We go here and we've had everything from French, which by the way, Miami and Broward County have a surprisingly good amount of French cuisine. We've had a lot of stuff from the islands, ranging from Cuban, Puerto Rican, Dominican places here that are incredible, as well as Puerto Rican. Definitely a lot of Cuban restaurants. In fact, some of the best Cuban restaurants that I've been to have been here in Broward County. You have great selection of Asian food. Trinidad, hopping back to the islands again real quick. There's Trinidad. It's just all the smaller islands. are also going to have their cuisine on display here. So there's definitely a lot of room and possibilities when it comes to cuisine here that are going to be incredible. And again, it seems kind of crazy to put Fort Lauderdale in there with Miami. That just gave me like the most up and down look ever. Like he looked at my outfit and like I thought it was dirty or something. But anyways, that was kind of strange. He kind of scoped me out. Either way, mean mugging kind of. All right. So whether you want to try something from the islands or from around the world, Broward County sounds kind of crazy to put it up there with New Orleans and New York City, but this county definitely has some of the best cuisine you could imagine. Today we ate at a Colombian restaurant that is right near the water by the beach, and you guys got to see some footage of that at the beginning of the video. All right, so we're here. We're gonna get Katie some shoes. So shopping again, diversity, cuisine are definitely the pluses.
This is the one I want.
That's the one you want? Yeah. All right, so another thing that I want to talk about Broward County and living here is scumbags. These are like everywhere in this county. You're talking like from credit card frauds to real estate frauds to every scam, every type of dishonest, just scammy type person you can imagine. This is like the capital of scam. It's possibly no place else on earth where you're gonna find more people doing insurance fraud, real estate fraud, any type of fraud under any type of circumstance. Shady salespeople. Just if it's a fraud and it exists, there's examples of it here on a massive level. It's just, and it goes into more elaborate levels, like in the real estate. It goes into just every category of life that you could think of. And again, we're going to use the word excel, even though that's usually referring to something where people are being great at something. He's wearing a Michigan shirt, but I don't think he's ever been to Michigan. I know Michigan when I see it, and that's not it. So from getting flicked off in traffic to aggressive drivers to just all types of scumbags, if it fits underneath the category of scumbag, then in Broward County you have specimens that are excelling in the category of being a scumbag. How do you describe a scumbag? Well, scumbag isn't a tough dude, it's usually a square. But these are the most dangerous types of people, and they'll cause you the most harm. All these dudes that in reality they're squares, but they're at the same time going to inflict on you some horrible type of scumbaggery. So whether pretending that you ran them over in traffic, when we did our last Broward County videos, we ran into people who would pretend like we had hit them, or they throw a bicycle at you in traffic. You have to be careful while you're driving around Broward to literally not pull into a residential neighborhood where there's people hanging around, or parking lots that are busy, because you have people who just hang around parking lots waiting to crash into U.S. pedestrians and then pretend like you ran them over. Again, the scumbag game in this county is absolutely off the scales. And unfortunately, the effect of being around scumbags is that it turns you into one of them, not because you're a perpetrator, because you're constantly on the defensive. You might be driving a little bit slow because you're looking for an address. People behind you might be assuming that you're trying to set them up for an accident, so they'll pass you, flick you off, honk the horn aggressively, not because they're naturally scumbags, but just because they're assuming you're trying to set them up. So it creates an environment where everybody turns into this mean, overprotective, overreactive type of turd, human-like substance. And that is unfortunately one of the worst parts of living here in Broward County, is that you have that. It's possibly as bad as New York City, even though population densities here is a lot less. But the prevalence of just those type of scumbags is what I would describe it as. This is definitely Scumbag Central. If you have teenage kids, I wouldn't recommend Broward very much. There's a lot of diversity, and it will expose your kids to just kind of a lot of good stuff, but it'll also expose your kids to a lot of bad crap. And it seems like if you just watch some of the artists that are coming out now, there's XXXTentacion, who was unfortunately killed in an attempted robbery here. Then there's other artists like Kodak Black, who talks about nothing but drug dealing and robberies. So just kind of give you an indication of the type of criminal element that is kind of, well, part of being a young person in Broward County. So if you have influenceable, I guess if you have mature young kids, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if your kids are easily influenced and easily dragged with the wind, then Broward County may not want to be the place you want to put your family if they're impressionable young people, easy to swing with the wind. Another level of the streets here, another level of high vagrancy that is just kind of over the top, some of the worst you'll see in the entire country as you're driving through the streets of Fort Lauderdale. Thank you. It feels like you can see this car here, exactly what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to walk real slow since you're in a rush, buddy. The other one, nicely, thank you, nicely weighted. But this one, those are the scumbags we were talking about earlier on in the video, who are just overly defensive, overly in a rush, can't wait for a pedestrian across the road, just hawking at people. That is just the type of scumbag you have here. And that is the way this place makes people. And I think the one that stopped only stopped because there was a camera. But of course, dignity and respect for other people that you don't know is kind of been tossed out the window here. You know, the ones that have just been kind of urbanized in a bad way.
No me estés agitando.
Yeah, well, I ain't got all day.
No me estés agitando.
I thought you were bringing me here to buy a couch. Of course, the best thing about Fort Lauderdale is obviously the weather. I just didn't want to sound like every YouTuber out there by mentioning that right off the bat. If you like fishing, the canals are loaded with largemouth bass and these Brazilian bass called peacock bass. If you like fishing, exotic fishing, you have both freshwater and saltwater, and you have easy access to the Everglades if you like hiking and camping and being eaten alive by mosquitoes and cycling. So there are a lot of outdoor activities, and again, these are things I didn't want to mention at the beginning of the video because I don't want to sound like every other RealTube, YouTube looking type of person out there. But the area does have great things to offer for those who like nature. Me, personally, I'm just happy looking at a palm tree and not a pile of snow or an interstate that's packed with traffic and snow at the same time. You might get some traffic out here. You definitely won't get the snow. Hit the like and subscribe, y'all.